Last Night in Soho. This is the latest film to come to us from director Edgar Wright. He also wrote this, and you know what? I like Edgar Wright. I think he's a talented guy who has made some pretty fun movies and has made some pretty interesting stylistic choices. So he was like, what happens if I go make a horror movie? What would that look like? But it's also Edgar Wright, so it's like, what if a horror movie, but it's got good music and looks fun? That's him. It's like, I'm just going to make something that looks great. And I will say about this film, it looks freaking incredible. Like, the set pieces in this are fantastic. And he's a fan of this era. Like, the 60s are such a big inspiration to this guy that, of course, if he's going to make a movie about this time period, it's going to look fantastic and have the best looking colors and neon lights and the best dressed people and the best music and dances and clubs. It all looks great. Sadly, the story kind of falls apart because of this concept. I think stylistically, he wanted to make something that looked fantastic. And this is a love letter to the 60s. Like, it is perfected in this movie. The colors, the costumes, the set design, it's gorgeous. And I think when you base your film around, like, we're going to play with this time period, a woman in the present day who's obsessed with this time period, you're going to instantly run into a certain roadblock, and that is, how do you make this authentically cool without looking like a crazed woman is obsessed with this time period? And I think that's a really interesting factor that doesn't really play into this movie, is like, fandom's a cautionary tale. Like, it's not a big thing, but essentially, this woman loves the 60s so much it ruins her life. And I think that is an interesting concept that you could explore with anything, really. It could be for, fandom or sports. Liking something that hard, you lose your grip on reality, and I think that's interesting. So, Thomasin McKenzie, who is a great actress, I loved her in Jojo Rabbit. I think it's her next big role she did. She is this woman who gets into a fashion school, and slowly she moves into this home, and she starts having these weird visions of this different time period where she's seeing this woman played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and because of this, it slowly starts to morph into this really interesting horror film. Now, I did say at the top there, I don't think the concept holds up that well. Sadly, because it is a horror film, it falls into a lot of these similar tropes that this genre gets stuck into. So instead of being this original or charismatic piece, it suddenly just falls flat with some of the stuff it's doing. Like, some of the character motivations become obvious and they just become cliched. And some of like the villain work just becomes boring and unstylistic, and everything about that just really takes what could have been a really cool spectacle done in the Edgar Wright style and just turns it into something we've seen time and time again. Which is a shame, because it looks great, and if it's stuck to making itself a horror movie with that stylistic choice of the 60s and the lights and the glamour, I think it'd look cool. But sadly, like, the actual horror element of this just becomes so basic that you're just like, really? You just did so much. You did so much with the 60s here, and now you're just doing this here? It really, really sucks that that's the case. Honestly, it takes you out of the movie a little bit just how easily that's done. So, like I said, I'm a fan of Thomasin McKenzie. I think she's a fantastic actress, and she does pretty good here. I think she's still finding her footing as a talent. Again, I'm not an actor, so I don't know how hard it is to do any of this stuff, but she does a lot of good, like, body work here. Just, like, the faces that this woman makes, they're nothing less than amazing, because she just embodies this frightened, frantic person, and it works really well. You guys should know by now, I am not the biggest fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she is the hotness right now, so she's casting everything. I will say her performance was the weakest to me. I just think it was easy. And you could have got, I think, a more I don't want to say influential. That may be the wrong word. I think you should have got somebody who's a little more representative of that time period, as opposed to somebody who can make it look like that time period. It's weird to say. I think Felicity Jones just, like, feels like that time period more than Anya Taylor-Joy, who is just like a footprint as opposed to the blueprint, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just weird that I just don't need to see Anya Taylor-Joy in everything, and she did fine in this. Matt Smith, actually, that guy's a creepy looking dude, and I like when he plays a schmarmy villain type. He's not really a villainish type in here per se, but he's an interesting character, and I think he is so good at doing the facial expressions that you buy everything he does, and that works really well. But I gotta give props to the late and the great Diana Riggs, because She is just a national treasure who just does so good in every performance she is in, and this was no exception. Like, if this was her final film, and I think it is, what a way to go. Because it kind of like, I don't want to say sums up her career, but it's like, if you are a woman who worked in the 60s, and now you are doing this role, I think there's a lot of like closure for you, and I really like that part of it. So good for her, just embodying that thing. And like I said, it's Edgar Wright all the way through. The music is fantastic. There's some great covers in here of some classic songs, which sound incredibly well and really cool. The lights look great. The dress designs, because it's about fashion. It is essentially a show about fashion. They look fantastic. There's something beautiful about it that's just so prestigious and glamorous, and I really enjoy that. There's one scene in particular, actually there's two scenes in particular, I like really much. Really much? Yeah, whatever. The first one, we're in this nightclub, and we're doing this beautiful shot with Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie switching roles as we're dancing around Matt Smith, because I found out in subsequent readings that that's actually one take. Like, they actually just went back and forth on set, and it is seamlessly beautiful and some of the best stuff of Edgar Wright's career, just seeing that scene. But also, there's one scene in the midst of the horror stuff that I didn't really enjoy, that I thought was incredible. It's hard to explain without seeing it, but you just see Thomasin McKenzie running down an alley, and the lighting is just perfectly, detective noir gumshoe shit, but the camera just slightly tilts and pushes in. It's hard to explain without actually seeing the shot, but it just like, if that was this whole movie, if that sequence, like that beautiful just of a camera setup, of lighting, of horror, if that was the whole movie, I think I would have enjoyed this more. Because basically halfway through the film, not even, I think within the first 20 minutes, I figured out the revelations that were going to be at play. And that's not to say that would ruin your enjoyment of the film, because it wouldn't. If you didn't know that, or if you did know that, it still works. It still holds up really well. But there's just something about it that just makes you go, okay, that's been done a lot, and maybe it's an homage. He does like homages, so it could be. He's a guy who likes movies, so if it's an homage, then yeah, it works as an homage, but it's a standalone film. It's not that special, which kind of sucks. It looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, but everything else about it, you've seen it before, which kind of sucks. But, those who will like it are going to like it. Those who want a nice horror movie set with a little bit of a different prestige, this could be it. Now, it doesn't look like it did that good at the box office, but that's a whole other story altogether. But overall, Last Night in Soho, it's not a bad film. It's just easy. And I think that's what really sucks, because you got a guy like Edgar who's going to take chances, and when you do something that's easy, it just doesn't work out. And that kind of sucks. So, Last Night in Soho, I am going to give a 6 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.